What's going on, YouTube? It's ISO Joe, and you're watching the ISO Joe podcast. So I know it's been a long time since I've released my last YouTube video, and that was a part one to my personal opinions on some of the offseason moves in the NBA. So if you can remember, I can kind of just give you a recap of what happened. I did an analysis on some of the offseason moves for the Eastern Conference teams. And in this video, I'm going to do my personal analysis on some of the moves made by the Western Conference teams. So the first team I'm going to get into is the Utah Jazz. Now, they had a very interesting and exciting offseason where they ended up trading two of their core pieces in Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Now, my personal opinion of this trade is I thought it was necessary. I thought it needed to happen just because, they had the core of Mitchell and Gobert together for so long, and it just never really came together. I mean, you had the offensive juggernaut in Mitchell, and he could still play some defense, but I mean, if Gobert was not rebounding and his offense wasn't on, he was just a defensive liability. Like he was a great rim protector, but he could not move laterally. And so anytime they go up against any Western Conference team, whether that be Dallas, Golden State, Denver, Clippers, anybody in the playoffs, they just got exposed. So I believe Danny Ainge made the best decision in breaking that up so they can get some young players and some draft picks to really help them build for the future. And some of the picks that they got from the trade from Cleveland and sending and Donovan Mitchell going over there was Lauri Markkanen, which I believe is going to be a really good player. They received Ochai Bahi, he was from Kansas. That was going to be Cleveland's draft pick, and I believe those are the picks they received to my knowledge so far. And for Minnesota, when they got Rudy Gobert, they received Malik Beasley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and a few other role players. Which again, young talent, good for Utah to really build, because obviously you're not getting any stars yet. But I do think with this young core and these draft picks, Utah can really build something. And if you've been paying attention to their season at all, it really started out going really well. I mean, they were third place in the Western Conference for a couple of weeks. Now, as I expected, and I'm sure a lot of other viewers of the NBA expected, they're going to plateau soon, and they have. I mean, they've fallen down to 19 and 20, which is 10th in the Western Conference right now. But I mean, I do think they're still a promising team. I mean, and one player I missed was Colin Sexton. He's been having a pretty good season. He's coming off the bench, but I think he's also been a great addition, because I think with him, being in Cleveland, with Garland really stepping up, and now having Mitchell, they were both very ball dominant guards, and I felt like it was going to be hard for them to coexist, for them to both be productive and both be able to get theirs. So I think it was a good move for Sexton to go over to Utah. But I do think Utah's a young team, and with low expectations, they're not expecting them to make the playoffs or to compete for a championship. I feel like this really allows them to kind of build a team, build a chemistry, create a new culture in Utah, and just allow for these young players to really grow and flourish. And just, again, great draft capital, similarly to OKC. I think this just gives them a lot of room to build off of. So the next team, in line with the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as I said, they traded Walker Kessler, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and a few other role players. And the Minnesota Timberwolves received Rudy Gobert. Now, I believe this was a pretty good trade from the jump. I mean, I did question how Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns would be able to play together, but as we've seen, Towns has become a very great shooter. He's been a pretty good shooter as long as he's been in the league, but this has allowed him to not necessarily have to play that traditional center role anymore, although I think that wasn't hurting him by playing that role. This has allowed him to kind of step out and be more of a 4/3, where he can kind of step out and shoot it a little bit, because, I mean, he is one of the best shooting big men in the league. So I think this allows him to kind of stretch the floor a little bit more. It allows Rudy Gobert to really focus on what he's good at, which is getting rebounds, scoring close to the basket, defending the rim. I think it really allows him to excel in those areas. But I think the team as a whole still kind of struggling a little bit. I mean, I didn't expect them to necessarily be a big threat in the West. I mean, I expect them to be a decent team. They still have a pretty young core with Edwards, D'Lo, D'Angelo Russell, and now Gobert and a few other young pieces. But I don't think this year will be the year that they put it all together. I mean, they're currently 10th in the Western Conference with a record of 16-21. So, excuse me, they're 11th, and the Utah Jazz are 10th. And, I think it's still early. Obviously, a lot more games to go. The All-Star break is coming up, so they can kind of regroup and reevaluate some things. But at best, they might be a play-in team, similar with the Jazz, maybe a 9th or 10th to be competing for a spot. But other than that, if they end up making the playoffs, at best, a first-round team. So the next team, the Dallas Mavericks. I really like this team, but it's very similar, if you all have been watching sports for a while, to James Harden's run from really 2018 to 2019, into that 2019-2020 season, where he eventually was like, I can't do this with Luka Doncic, because he has been going on a tear this season, averaging 34 points and 9 dimes on the year. But I mean, if you look at his surrounding castmates, I mean, he's got Christian Wood was one of their signings. I think he was a great pickup, but again, I don't think he's enough. I mean, they picked up Kemba, which is a good, just more offense. They have Reggie Bullock. They have Hardaway Jr. I mean, they have a lot of good scores. But then they did let go of Brunson, so that kind of hurt him a little bit. But again, I feel like the Mavericks are going to be one of those teams that are going to be good, may compete to maybe a Western Conference appearance, but I think they may plateau in the second round. I just feel like while the West is still up for grabs, I do think there are too many good teams that can knock them out second round that they'll probably have to go against, like a Denver, like New Orleans, possibly the Suns, but I mean the Suns have kind of dismantled in big moments, as we've seen in the past. But I think they could be a good team, but I do think, and also they have Kleba there. I do think, like Kobe Bryant was saying, like I don't think you can win championships when there's one sole guy carrying the team and averaging like 30 points. I mean, you need a supporting cast. If you look at all the guys that have won championships, they had another guy, another number two that was maybe not a superstar, but a solid star player. You see, with the Bulls, it was Jordan and Pippen. He wasn't Michael Jordan, but Scottie Pippen was a very good number two. LeBron James, in his championship runs, he had more than solid players, more than just stars. Like he had Hall of Famers on his team. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. He went back to Cleveland, Kyrie Irving, and now since he's in LA, he has Anthony Davis. And then with Steph Curry, he had Klay Thompson, and he had Kevin Durant. I mean, you need comparable supporting cast to really take you further in the playoffs. I mean, Hero Ball looks good and it's fun to watch on TV, but I personally don't think that it is going to, contribute to championships. I just feel like he needs more help. He needs more people that are really going to, like, if he happens to have a bad night, or he can only give you 30, which is still incredible to be, I believe he's like 24 doing this. But he needs some more help. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. Luka's going to need some more help in Dallas. And currently they're 21-17, which is 5th in the West. But I feel like the West is still too good for him to be enough to win. And the last team I wanted to get into was the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, I really like this team. I think this team, if healthy and if everyone plays, I'm talking about Kawhi since he can kind of be in and out. I feel like if he can play consistently and get into a rhythm, this team can be very dangerous. I see them, because they're currently 21-17. They're actually 5th. I made a mistake. And the Dallas Mavericks are 4th at 21-16. But this Clippers team, you better watch out for them, because they just have a very good bench, and they're just a smart team. Like, they're clearly playing chess while all these other teams, it seems, are playing checkers. Like, every time I watch some of those games, it's like, especially Kawhi Leonard, he just surprises me so much, because he'll go a set of not playing and then come back and hit a game winner or just have a crazy game. And then with Paul George, just that backcourt, I feel like when healthy is one of the best in the league. Probably at this point a little bit below Tatum and Brown. I'd still take them at this point, but I mean they're a very close second in my opinion. I mean, I think you got to watch out for those with that Clippers team. And their bench is just so deep. I mean, you have Reggie Jackson, you have Luke Kennard, you have Morris. I mean, you just have so many, Robert Covington. You have so many guys that can contribute scoring, defensively. They're going to be a tough out. They really are. But again, one thing I've just really enjoyed about this NBA and really the Western Conference is there's so many good teams and there's no team I think right now that is running away with it. I mean, I know currently Denver is the number 1 seed, but like I said, it's still early. We're not even to the All-Star break yet. A lot of things can change. So it'll really be exciting to see what happens. So I know I'm going to be staying tuned, and I hope you stay tuned. And especially stay tuned to my next episode coming up. Thank you.